Hello, today I'm going to be going over my attempted repair and general disassembly of this Panasonic RR900D micro cassette transcriber. I bought this unit off of eBay specifically because it had, from a different seller advertised, a replacement belt and idler tire kit sold for this unit, but that came with a few caveats. The pinch roller doesn't really match the original one, but the belts do, and I'll get into that more at the end. But if you're going to attempt this, definitely get a service manual. Do not use this video as your sole guide. Definitely get a service manual if you can. If you're not mechanically inclined, I wouldn't even attempt this. This is just going to be a waste of your time and unneeded frustration. But if you're willing to tinker with it and you don't have a service manual like I did, hopefully this video provides a little bit of knowledge going in. So without further ado, let's go. To split the case open, it's fairly easy. There's 6 screws. They're all, I think, of a similar length. If not, there's 4 screws of the same length and 2 that are longer. 1 in each corner and 2 in the middle. That's fairly easy. Once split open, this is the cassette mechanism. It's almost like a compact cassette mechanism, but simplified and miniaturized. It's a single capstan pinch roller design, and the record and erase head are sandwiched into one unit. The solenoid that you see towards the right of the picture is to actuate the rewind function because of a foot pedal remote that is optional with this unit because, again, this is a dictation machine. It's meant to be used in an office setting where a clerk or a secretary would be writing what's heard on the unit, so you need both hands free, and they were able to I believe rewind or play the unit based off that foot pedal. So a little bit of background there, but the mechanism is grungy because I didn't take the time to clean it. I didn't know how repairable this unit would be, and so I didn't want to take the time to, and I'm glad I didn't because that saved me a little bit of time in the end because it wasn't very repairable, at least in my circumstance. So this is the solenoid actuator, and the reason that I went to taking this apart was because it allowed a little bit more mobility to free the unit for pivoting around and getting access to the belts. There's 2 clips that hold that metal flat sliding part on. If you pry those back, you're able to get the clip up and out, and so it clears that post. And once you do, it's fairly loose, so you can turn it 90 degrees, and the pin that you see on that kind of graphite or carbon colored part of the solenoid just slides out. It's held in by gravity, and there's no clips or anything, so that's fairly easy to assemble, or disassemble rather. This is the part on the circuit board that actuates the record mechanism. It's a little pivot point. You can take this loose by prying up that plastic captive washer. It's just held in by detents in the post, and the pinch roller assembly is taken off the same way. It's a little captive washer that the mechanism is held under tension under, and once removed, you can just lift the entire mechanism up out as is. And so this is the mechanism out and disassembled. That roller, the pinch roller pin that you see below the housing or assembly that pinch roller's in is just a friction fit. You don't really need anything special to get that out. I just used a cut off bit of old paper clip and pushed it out. There's no spacers or washers to keep track of there. This is not a precision machine. It's fairly cheap. These are some screws that hold in this circuit board on the back side of the cassette mechanism. There's 4 in total, I believe. 2 red ones that you see pictured below, 1 in the corner, and 1 is covered or obscured by this cardboard foil label. I believe it's a RF shielding of some kind. So this is the first of the red screws to take out. It's by the I/O shield in between the remote plug and the microphone and headphone inputs and outputs. So that's that one. That's the other one towards the top of the panel. That's the one in the corner. It's got 2 small washers underneath it, so try not to lose those if you disassemble this. And this is the screw that's obscured rather by that foil layer. It's got a locking washer on it. I don't know if you can make that out by my fingertips, so try not to lose that when you disassemble this. And with that out of the way, this is the front side of the cassette mechanism. I decided to try to take off the cassette door because it was getting annoying while I was flipping the unit over on the workbench, and so luckily it's fairly easy to take out. There's a single screw that holds the assembly on. It's located right at that hinge point there, pointed out by the tweezers. Once that screw is removed, the door simply slides off of the other side of the post that it's attached to, and it is under tension, so you'll have to put it back on under tension when you go to reassemble this. Otherwise, it won't eject when you hit the eject button. This is the backing plate that keeps all the sliding components of the mechanism covered. I removed it, I think, because at the time I thought that it would allow easier access to some of the behind the mechanism components. It didn't, but if you need or want to remove it, it's just held in by two small countersunk screws. One is pictured right above the counter, tape counter, and the other is kind of towards that other reel over there. I hope that you can see that. It's not too out of focus, but if you remove that, that's what it looks like underneath. And so when you push the piano keys, that's what's actually actuating and sliding up and down and changing the direction and the gearing that's used. There's 3 red countersunk screws that hold this mechanism to the greater backing plate mechanism, or assembly rather, of the cassette deck. These screws are turned upside down and shown near their holes that they were removed from for reference. They're pointed out by the end of the tweezers with 1, 2, and the last one being there. This is a screw that I thought I needed to remove that was on the I/O panel, but it didn't do anything, but I took a picture of it just for reference. And this is a picture, I wish that was clearer, but this screw, once removed, allowed a little bit more compliance of the mechanism to be like spread apart and pried apart to feed the belt in and out. So this is a screw that I would remove. The plate directly on the back of the mechanism is held on by 3 screws. They're small, and on the end of the tweezers, one is shown there, the second one there, and the third one there. And last but not least, this is a small PCB that I found helpful to remove. It's just 2 screws. One is pictured there and the other there. And this allows easy access to the belt for the motor side, and once it's off of the motor, you can kind of delicately feed it out of between the flywheel and all the other things that it can grab on, and you can gently feed in the replacement belt this way as well. This is a very tedious method. I don't recommend this. It took probably far longer than it should have, but it did work. I was able to get the replacement belt put in, and the tape counter belt is rather easy to replace. I don't have any pictures of replacing that, but it was pretty easy. Unfortunately, like I was mentioning at the start of this video, the pinch roller, the idler roller, whatever you want to call it, was not the exact size as the original one that came out. The plastic that the rubber is mounted to was wider than the original one. And after measuring in a dial calipers, I tried to file it down to get it closer to the correct size, but it still wasn't. It was still too wide, and so it had too much friction when I reassembled this unit as a test. So I ended up having to put the original tire back in, which is not ideal, but it did work. The other problem that I ran into, though, is that I think I bent something out of place or didn't put a mechanism back in correctly, because I had to forcefully push down the play button and hold it down just to get playback to work. And if I let up just ever so slightly, if I took just a little bit of pressure off, playback would stop. And so this is essentially a paperweight now, and I'm going to try to get rid of this unit for parts or something else. But it does not work as is, so this was a failed repair attempt. If you're going to try to repair this unit, get a service manual. Hopefully it would have clearer instructions, or at least more instructions than I was able to guess, or than what I was able to kind of almost but not quite figure out on my own. There are service manuals available at the time that I'm recording this, and just a fair warning, some time has passed since I was working on this unit, and since I've been able to actually sit down and do the narration and the slideshow video for this, so some things are hazy, but I tried to recall things to the best of my ability, and the pictures did help with that, but just a fair warning. So again, do not follow this video to the letter. This is more so just a general guide to sort of clue you in and give you context as to what you might see and run across when disassembling this unit, if you find yourself doing that, and hopefully you can disassemble it and repair it with more knowledge than I had going in. So thank you, and take care.